Can you confirm if you
Yes.
can see my screen? Okay, that's fine.
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right then. Thanks for confirming.
Yes. Thanks,
Okay,
yes.
so good evening, everybody. Welcome to this session. My name is Oke Okunfolami, and I
Good
am one
evening.
of the BAs within Blue Sky Citadel, and I will be taking this session on the creation of user stories and acceptance criteria. So our focus this evening really a number of different bits. So there are 4 aspects to it. We're going to look at epics, features, user stories, and acceptance criteria. And before I continue, can I just ask, does anybody have access to the Azure board? Have you been given access to it?
No,
I'm still
No.
waiting.
No, I haven't been given access to anything.
Nobody
No.
at all.
Still waiting.
Mine was invalid, so I sent an email this morning.
Okay.
So I'm still waiting to get
Uh,
a response.
Okay.
Or should I say I haven't checked this night anyway, but I sent an email very early this
Okay.
morning.
So the reason I'm asking is because I would usually at the end of the kind of theoretical part of it, talk you through creating a user story on the board, just so you can see how it's done in practice. But if you haven't got access, I will speak to Wumi, so we can probably arrange, even if it's a half-hour session, or 15 minutes, just to talk you guys through how to create all these things we're saying on the board. So knowing it is one thing, and then trying your hands on it is another thing, right? So what we'll do is at the end, if somebody can remind me, so we can agree when we can. I'm happy to take out of my time and meet with you guys again for maybe 15 minutes, half an hour, if necessary, and we can just cover that area, because you would need that, right? No point in going over the theoretical part, learning everything and not knowing how to apply it in practice. Okay, so if somebody makes a note to remind me towards the end, we can agree and when to meet. There's somebody that has their sound unmuted. I can hear your discussion and it's kind of getting in my head. Right, so we're going to be looking at these 4 aspects: epics, features, user stories, and acceptance criteria. Oh, I haven't even started displaying it as a slideshow. That is not professional. Okay, so let's do it this way, right? Okay, so where were we here? Next slide. So we said we're going to be looking at epics, features, user stories, and acceptance criteria. Okay, so what are epics? An epic is the high-level body of work that binds together a group of related stories. They are large pieces of work that can be broken down into smaller and more manageable work items, tasks, or user stories. So what does this mean? If you band together, a number of, it could be user stories depending on how big or how high level the epic is. If you band together a number of user stories, you could get an epic. Or if you band together like a number of work items, you could get epic. So what does this tell us? Like, you can break an epic into more manageable work items or tasks, or as a matter of fact, user stories. Okay, epics are used to describe more complex tasks, and they create a clear hierarchy that makes it easier to manage development and help deliver value to users while working towards a bigger goal. So look at it this way. An epic is kind of, when you achieve an epic, it helps you in turn achieve a bigger goal. Okay, and in order to achieve an epic, you must have achieved or completed a number of different tasks under the epic. If you haven't really gotten a clear picture of it just now, just bear with me, hang on, and you would soon get a better picture as we go on. Features: a service or function of the product that delivers business value and fulfills the customer's needs. You might think that sounds really vague, isn't it? But if you look at it this way, an epic can be broken down into features, right? So, we said we're going to look at epics, features, user stories, and our acceptance criteria. So what have you gotten from these 2 slides? If you break an epic into a smaller chunk, you could get a number of features. So if you band up together a number of features, you can get an epic. So a feature is a chunk of work from the epic. It is a deliverable that adds value and moves towards completing the epic. So remember, when I was talking about the epic, I said when you complete an epic, it helps you achieve or complete a higher business objective or goal. In the same way, when you complete a number of features, by so doing, you are able to complete an epic. Okay. Moving on. If you've got questions, please take a note of them, okay? Because I'll leave enough time to, hopefully enough time. There'll be time for us to, go through your questions. So if you have any questions now, just take a note of them, okay? I wouldn't want to answer them now so that we're not kind of breaking the flow. If you have a question, write it down and we would address it at the end, okay? Just so you don't forget, write it down, please. And now user stories. What are user stories? They're short, simple descriptions of a feature told from the perspective of the person who desires the new capability. And this is usually a user or a customer of the system. Short, simple descriptions of a feature. Did you notice of a feature? Remember on our previous slide, we said epics are broken down into features. And now we're saying that a user story or user stories are short, simple descriptions of a feature. Okay, so what does that tell us? If we break the feature down into smaller chunks, we would get user stories. So please bear in mind that all these things that we're saying, they are broad, how do I put it now? Like they're rules, right? But these rules can be adapted to suit the organizations that you work in. As we go on, it will become clearer. Okay, so but for now, what you should remember is that epics can be broken down into features, and features in themselves can be broken down into user stories. User stories talk about that's some grammatical error there. User stories talk about how a particular bit of feature will offer something of value. Please remember that, something of value. Also remember that they are short, simple descriptions offering something of value. Okay. Now, we're getting down to it. Why do we write user stories? Why do we write user stories? The main aim is to put end users in the center of the conversation and capture product functionality from their perspective. Quite handy if you were in the session just now, the general session, right? Where Moji was talking about agile and waterfall and trying to make a difference, like to compare how, both of them can be, how they're different in practice, right? And one thing she mentioned was how the agile way of working kind of ensures that there's constant communication with the end user or the business or the person or the people that will be using that system or process that has been developed. Okay. Now, remember, we're talking about the end user, the people that will use the system or the process that have been developed. Okay. Now, this is how user stories are important because they focus on the end user. They focus on the end user. It says it puts the end user in the center of the conversation and it captures the functionality from their perspective. So it's not really what you would like to see. It's what they would like to see. So, Mr. A, what is the pain point? What is this thing that's causing you a lot of hassle, headache? Like, how would you like to see it improved upon? It might be that, oh, when I click enter, there's a lot of delay. I would want to improve, this functionality. I want things to be quick or more efficient or effective. I want to save time, or I want to automate this process or this system so that it saves time, so that our time is better focused on other value adding activities. Okay, so you want to look at it from Mr. A's perspective, not how you would like to see it. Of course, in establishing what Mr. A would like, there will be discussions between the BA and Mr. A, right? But you're not going there imposing stuff. You're going there to provide solutions that will be agreeable, to the end user, bearing in mind that whatever it is that you are creating is going to be used by the end user. Again, if you remember, if you were on that meeting just now, because I joined in the last few minutes, where it was mentioned that sometimes you might, so one of the, will I say, downfalls, of the waterfall methodology is that you might have developed or built something to the end with little or no communication with the stakeholders or the end users, and you have this shiny new fancy product or service that might not be suitable for the business needs or the end users needs. What's the point of spending months and months developing something that is of no use to the business? Okay, so that defeats its purpose. So this is why user stories are really, really important. It helps put the end users in the center of the conversation. So we're developing things, we're creating processes, we're refining things around the needs of the end users. So if it doesn't work for them, if it makes life more difficult for them, we're not having it. Okay, so the end users are always at the center of those discussions. The second paragraph says, it also helps developers get a better understanding of what, for whom, and why they are building. So we aren't developers, but we understand that developers, like, they like to know, like, what are we building? Because they can then provide better solutions, like, okay, if this is what we're trying to do you know there's a shortcut or an easier way, to achieve this? There's a time-saving, route that we can take, that will be of everyone's best interest, So they want to know, who are we developing this thing for, and why are we building it? Okay. And then I've also highlighted the benefits of user stories. Again, like we said in the other slide, it helps focus on the user and their needs, because we want to create systems and processes, that meet the needs of the user. Okay. They allow for equal amount of understanding and collaboration. As we go on, you will see what this means, because user stories offer an opportunity for discussion. They offer opportunity for discussion and negotiation. So like I said, in the next couple of slides, that would all come to light. They drive creative solutions. So when you have a user story written down, it provides an opportunity. So I mean, this third point ties closely to the second one that says it allows for equal amount of understanding and collaboration, because when you have a user story in front of you for refinement, it's an opportunity. Like, I know in the previous project that was a purely development team. When I would present a user story during refinement, it would be an opportunity for the testers and developers to discuss. So I'm not a developer, right? So I don't even know what it entails, to bring a user story to life, or to develop a particular functionality. However, the testers and developers are fully aware, and they can bounce ideas off each other. And it can also, even though I don't know how to do it, I know what the user wants, isn't it? So I'm able to express the user's needs clearly, and they are able to suggest ways of developing or bringing those ideas to life. So that's why it says it drives creative solutions. Now, what is a good user story? This one is quite important, because you know what? Last year I was interviewing at work, so I joined like the BA team that interviews new BAs, and this is one of the questions they ask. Like, when you're talking of user stories, they're like, "Oh, so how would you, like, if you're writing a user story, how would you ensure that user story was good or fit for purpose?" They want to hear the invest principle. Okay, if you notice, I have listed 6, there's 6 points here, but if you look closely, you will see that the first letters of those words spell out the word invest. Okay, INVEST: independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. A good user story should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. So a good user story should be written with the principle of invest in mind. So we should be guided with the principle of invest. I know somebody will be asking, what does this principle then mean? Invest. Okay, next slide. Right. Independent means that it is self-contained and it's possible to bring that user story into progress without depending on another user story or external resource. So for a user story to be deemed as good, it shouldn't be relying on another piece of work, for it to be worked on. Because if it's relying on another piece of work, it's blocked, isn't it? We know that. We always talk about, I don't know if this has been, shared with you, but, we talk about how we discuss our stories and how when we meet as a team, our scrum masters or delivery managers, they are there to help us, like with any impediment, isn't it? I'm sure you must have heard that word now. Any impediments or blockers, any impediment or blockers. So scrum masters, delivery managers, that's one of the things that they do. When we meet, either at our daily stand-ups, it's an opportunity for us to highlight the progress that we're making, give updates to the team, and if there are any blockers, we also raise those up. If there are any issues, we flag those up as well. Now, if there are any blockers, it's the responsibility of the people working on those tickets, to flag them, and then it's the responsibility of the scrum master or the delivery manager to try and mitigate, those risks or resolve those blockers. Now, why must the user story be independent? If I'm about to create something, and in order for me to create something else has to happen, what does that mean? Is that not a blocker? It simply means that until B is completed, A cannot be done. So why are we putting A before B? If you get what I mean, why don't we swap? Deal with B, and whenever that's done, we move to A, if you get what I mean. So it should be self-contained, independent of another user story or external resource. So if it is, in order for us to complete this story, something must happen in team B before we can complete the story. I don't think we want to take that story into the sprint. Okay, so that's independent. Negotiable. It should leave room for discussion regarding its optimal implementation. Do you remember when we were talking about the benefits of a user story, when we said the previous slide, it allows for equal amount of understanding and collaboration, and it helps to drive creative solutions, isn't it? Okay, that's exactly what negotiable means. When you are presenting a user story, it's not like the be all and end all. It's not like my way or the highway, right? It's not like anything is set in stone. You present your user story, you explain things from the stance, from the position of the user, and you leave it up for debate. Okay, so there's one phrase here that's really important: optimal implementation. So the people that are going to implement will then suggest the best way to go about it. So sometimes I find myself in a refinement meeting, I've come with a user story that looks quite simple, and by the time the testers and developers are discussing how it will be implemented, they're like, oh, you need to add one line, another line, because we will do this, and then this one, and then this one, and then that. Okay, that looks good. It now looks like maybe something that I came with maybe 4 or 5 lines, it has maybe turned into 8 or 9 lines, but everybody's happy, like, oh yeah, we know what we're doing. The flow is better, and we all have a shared understanding. So a user story helps everybody to be on the same page, so we all understand what the goal is, what we're expecting to get done. Okay, next one is valuable. The user story must show the value that will be delivered to stakeholders. It must show, it should be clear that once the story is completed, this is the value added to the stakeholder or to the business. Estimable. It must have a size. So you must be able to estimate a user story. As you go on in this same training, you will then begin to see how user stories are estimated. So there are so many different ways, but one way that is very common is the Fibonacci sequence. And by the time you are going through, I think it's the Scrum Masters that will take you on that estimation. So you'll be able to observe, and please observe carefully when they say testers and developers should estimate and all that, because you never know where you would end. As a matter of fact, I mean, another project where In my team, we don't even have any developers or testers. It's just a team of BAs. Okay, so we're doing estimation. Estimation would typically be done by testers and developers because they are the ones that would develop. Okay, so they would estimate how much effort would go into developing the story, or how much effort would go into testing that story. Okay, but I find myself in a team where we're all BAs, and in a sense, we are we are developing. We are developers in a sense because we are creating user stories for companies and all that, and for suppliers and people to come and bid and all that. It's a bit complex, but in a sense, we are developers, so we are now estimating. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Whatever is happening in your team, just pay attention. When meetings are going on, refinement meeting, pay attention, because no knowledge is lost. I think that was said at the start, right? And that's very correct. No knowledge is lost. The fifth point here says small enough to estimate with reasonable accuracy and to plan into a time box such as a sprint. Now, you would be working in sprints. Typically, sprints are like 2 weeks. Some people do 1 month, or some people even do 1 week. But what you usually find is that sprints run for like 2 weeks. You find that's what's obtainable in practice for most people. So 2 weeks, right? You want to be sure that whatever user story you are writing will be completed within 2 weeks. If it's going to take more than 2 weeks, then it's too big. It has to be split. Okay, so you have to bear that in mind, that it has to be small enough to estimate with reasonable accuracy and to plan into a time box such as a sprint. In this case, your sprint is 2 weeks. So any piece of work that will take longer than 2 weeks ideally should not really be estimated as one story. If you find that it's during refinement, developers are saying, oh yeah, it might take longer than we've anticipated, or not 2 weeks, then you might want to consider breaking the story maybe into 2 parts so that it's small enough to be developed within a sprint. And then testable. You should have a clear acceptance criteria which allows satisfaction to be tested. We'll talk more about acceptance criteria, but bear in mind, it says it allows satisfaction to be tested. Like, how would you even know that a story is complete if you cannot test it? Okay, so a user story should be testable. Now, we're getting further down into it. The format of a user story. The format of a user story. So this is the general format of the user story. It will be like, as a, I want, so that. I'll say it again. As a, I want, so that. The as a line, it just defines the type of user. The I want, it also defines the goal, because there's some goal that would be achieved. And the so that, it gives us the reason why that goal will be achieved. So as a, I want, so that. Okay. Now, this is just another explanation. As a, it defines who, right? Who wants it? Who's the user? I want. What does the user want? So that. Why do they want what they want? Okay, so we'll go on and see examples of user stories. I've put a really, really simple one. I think I must mention now that user stories, they look so simple. Like,
so you gotta be 10 toes down and on your pivot at all times.
Sorry, whoever that is. Thank you. So I was saying that user stories, they look really simple, but do not be deceived one moment to think that, like, you can just draft it like anyhow, right? It takes time. In fact, the simpler the user story, the more time it takes to craft a user story that meets that principle of invest. I'm saying this so that you know how important your role is as a BA, to be able to take complex business requirements and simplify them so that everybody understands what you're saying. Because you're going to these meetings, you're getting requirements, sometimes they sound really technical and all that, but you want to be able to summarize it in a way that anybody that picks it up to read, they can understand. So it looks so simple, and you may able to say, oh, is this the result of hours of work? But that is the whole point of it. the simpler the user story, the more tricky it is to even get it, together. So this is an example in front of us. As an online shopper, I want to view a list of products so that I can select some items to purchase. Who is the user? The user is an online shopper. So that's clearly defined, because you could be a high street shopper, can't you? Like, you could be on Princess Street or whatever city center street, and yeah, you going around looking, doing your window shopping or whatever. But it's so specific. As an online shopper, what do you want? I want to view a list of products. Why do you want to view a list of products? So that I can select some items to purchase. I hope that's simple enough for us to understand. It has explained who, what, and why. Okay, I'll take you back to that slide. Who, what, and why. So as an online shopper, I want to view a list of products so that I can select some items to purchase. Okay, now remember we talked at the start about epics, features, and user stories. And I said epics can be broken down into features, and features in turn can be further broken down into user stories, right? Now, this is how it all comes together. I've outlined for us an epic that has been broken down into 2 features, and those features have been broken down into, so each feature has been broken down into 3 user stories. So we have 1 epic, 2 features, and 6 user stories. Okay, now what's the epic? Let's look at it in more detail. It says develop a website for Blue Sky Citadel. Okay, now whoever has written this has deemed it fit to split that into 2 features. I'm sure they must have considered, like, what does it take to develop a website for any organization? Okay, we'll probably need a landing page, and we'll also need authentication features. Okay, right, so those are our features. Now, under the landing page, what could we possibly need? What do we want to see in on the landing page? And that's how they've come up with those 3 user stories. First of all, we want to create the landing page. We want a header menu on that landing page. We want a footer menu. Now, I just want you to imagine, because guess what? A lot of the work we do as BAs involves a lot of imagination. Imagination. I know there's a saying, vivid imagination. Yes, you have to really imagine as a BA. You want to imagine how the process comes together. You want to imagine how a system works in practice. Okay, so you have to first visualize it in your head before it all comes together. So imagine a landing page. You know what a landing page means? It's like your home page. So for example, if you're to go to a shopping website, let's say Next or New Look, or whichever online, Zara or whatever you want to shop. When you type www.zara.whatever, and you hit enter, right? If you put in the URL, what's going to happen? You're going to land somewhere, and that's why they call it the landing page, right? And most people say home page. Okay, so that's the first thing that will greet you, and you land on that page, and it's immediately recognizable. Why? Because there's a header menu. Maybe on the header menu you can see like your logo that lets you know that, oh, I'm on Zara's web page. You see some other things like maybe your sign in, your search functionality, and all those kind of things. So your landing page is made up of different things. So from that landing page, I've only put 3 user stories, but believe me, people can break it down to tiny bits. Like you can have up to maybe 7, 10, depending on how many features you want on your landing page. Another bit that we looked in terms of the feature was the authentication. Now this has to do with your password, signing in, login, and all that. And we broke that down into 3 user stories. Okay, so this is just an example. In order to develop the website for Blue Sky Citadel, we need the landing page. We also need authentication, because we want people to be able to sign in with their password, to sign up, first-time users, and then once they've signed up, whenever they come back, they can log in. And we also wanted to be able to set up passwords, and all the complexities that come with passwords and all that. So we've been able to divide or break down the epic into 2 features, and each feature has 3 user stories. Okay. Now, this is another example, right? And the reason I put this example, if we were to compare with the previous one, the reason I put this example was to show us that your epic can be as big as you want it or as small as you want it. So what a business of maybe 20, or let's say what a small business will consider an epic might not even be an epic for a large business or more complex business. Do you get? So what a small business might consider, or a simple let's rephrase that. Someone that has simpler business needs, right, might write an epic, and that epic might only be a feature or even a user story for a more complex organization. Okay, so if we're to go back, you see how developing a website, the feature was landing page and authentication, and under those we have creating a landing page, header, footer, and all that. But see this other example. The epic is what? Creating a landing page. Do you see? Sorry, I'm going back and forth, but it's just to illustrate. Do you see that creating a landing page here is a user story? But in this case, creating a landing page is an epic. So that shows you that there's nothing really set in stone. It depends on how you guys agree within your teams or in your organization. What would the epic be? What would the feature be? What would the user story be? Can you also notice that I have not used the word user story on this example? I've said epic, feature, and backlog item. That's because your user stories are also called backlog items, because your user stories, you populate your backlog with your user stories. At the end of your training, you should be able to put on your CV to say, I manage the backlog, so you are involved in backlog management, or like prioritization. That's one of the jobs of a BA. So you would constantly review the backlog, maybe when you're having your refinement meeting, or your not even sprint planning. You will probably do this before sprint planning. You want to have a look at your backlog, prioritize everything, put them one after the other, So backlog prioritization or management is one of the things that you will do as a BA. So I've used the word backlog item. It's another way of referring to your user story, okay? So back to what I was saying. Creating a landing page for the Blue Sky website has now been divided into, it's been broken down into two features, header menu and footer menu. Do you see that in our former story, a former scenario, we stopped at header menu and footer menu, and creating landing page was also part of the user stories under the landing page feature. But in this case here, creating a landing page for the website is an epic in itself, and we've split it into header menu, footer menu. We've now split the header menu feature into a number of different user stories, namely logo, home, sign up, login, search, about us. And then we've split the footer menu into contact, privacy policy, frequently asked questions, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Okay, so again, it's not set in stone, no hard and fast rules. It depends on how complex the project you're working on is, or what the requirements are. So it's just for you to group it. If you have a group of, so just see it as a grouping activity, okay? You group the smaller ones into bigger groups, and you group those bigger ones into even bigger ones, okay? So it's really up to your teams. It's up to how things will be done in the organizations that you will find yourself working in, okay? This is another example. Okay, so now we are going to the user story specifically. So remember, we talked about, as an online shopper, I want to view a product list so that I can make a purchase and all that. This is like an example for a sign up user story. As a new user, I want to sign up by creating a username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. Right, I now remember, I know why we used sign up, because sign up was one of the stories here, okay? Can you see sign up there? At the third, we have logo, home, and sign up, okay? So I was just trying to give you an example of how that would translate to a user story. So our sign up user story says, as a new user, I want to sign up by creating a username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. Another sign-up story could be, as a newly registered user, I want to receive an email confirmation when I register so that I will know the registration process is complete. Now let's work our way through this story. As who's the user? A new user on probably maybe Blue Sky Citadel, right? What does the person want to do? They want to sign up by creating a username and password. Do you know, even if you say, I want to sign up, and you remove by creating a username and password, that's still all right. It's all up to you how you craft or draft your user story, and if everyone in your team understands what you're trying to say. Okay, something might mean a lot to one team, I might not really mean anything to another team. So yeah, it depends on what you all agree. As far as there's that shared understanding, then that's fine. Another example, as a newly registered user, what kind of user? Because the first one says a new user, and this one says what? A newly registered user. What does the person want to do? They want to receive an email confirmation when they register. You know how like you go on some website, you register, when you sign up, they then send you a confirmation, congratulations or welcome to wherever, you know. Why? So that I will know that the registration process is complete. It could also be, as a newly registered user, I want to view a prompt, or I want to view a confirmation message or a success message so that I know that the registration process is complete. You know how sometimes they don't even send you an email when you register on a website or some platforms. What they will do is, once the registration is successful, you will see a message pop up to say, congratulations, or whatever, your registration is complete or successful. Okay, so these are further examples of login. So the other one was sign up, and this one is for login. As a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that the system can authenticate me and I can trust it. Okay. Another example, as a registered user, I want to occasionally change my password so that I can keep it secure. Another example, as a registered user, I want to be able to request a new password so that I don't permanently lose access to my data if I forget my password. What I want us to do now, this is where I want interaction, or where I would encourage interaction. I'm going to ask us, right, to give examples of you, to create user stories, to make you come up with user story, just make up any user story. I'm going to do I stop sharing so that I can see? Okay, I think I'll be able to see the participants if you raise up your hand. There was somebody in the, okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Right, I'm going to, where did I go? I'm going to ask you guys to now, like, you can put your hands up, and I can, when I call you, you can unmute and just come up with any user story. And please, no user story is silly. Like, for example, I've been in sessions where we've done user stories for making jollof rice. Okay, I just want us to practice it so that we can understand the concept. So is anybody ready to go first? You don't have to use login or any serious thing. You can just think of everyday things like, and let me take you back to that format to guide you how you can create your own story. So let's go back. So to the who, the what, and the why. Okay.
And we're not gonna tolerate no kind of BS. So y'all know what the BS is.
Sorry,
watching
I've
the
got
cameras, we
some
do see
people
what's going on.
unmuted, but
So
Jack,
just take
I've
that
got you
as
unmuted.
accountability.
Do you did you want to share with us something that you've come up with? Okay. Then if that's not the case, if you don't mind muting, Efe, your hand is up. Shedrack, your hand is up. So we're going to go in that order. Efe, Shedrack, Faith. Okay, let's go. Thank you. Let's get started. Efe, on you go.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
From what you'll be teaching us since I think if I want to form my own user story, I would like to use the bank.
Okay.
As a bank customer,
Yes.
I would like to have an ATM card
Okay.
so I can use it to make transactions without going into the bank.
Thank you very much. But don't go. Hold on.
Yep.
So that was very good. You've stated who, you stated what, and you stated why. The only thing that is remaining for you to do, right, is to use the exact format. Okay. So you said as a bank and customer, that's fine. So that first line was fine. You said
Okay.
I would like to. That was what you said, right?
I want to have an
Okay.
ATM
I
card
want. That's good. So I want. And
Yeah.
then the last line will be
so that I can make transactions without
Exactly.
going into the bank.
exactly. Thank you very much, Ife. That's a perfect user story. Thank you. Okay, you can now put your hand down. Thank you for that. Shadrach, you're next.
Yeah, so mine is as a registered user, I want
Yeah.
to be able to add phone numbers so that I will be able to access my account when I forget my email.
Well done. Only one thing I need to correct. So you said as a registered user, I want to be able to, so that I will be able to. Okay. Let's try and remove the be able to. You understand? So everything else is fine. So just say as a registered user, I want to. So do
So I
that
want to
again.
add phone number.
So start again, please.
So as a registered user, I want
Yep.
to add phone number so
Yep.
that I will be able to access my account when I forget my email.
Okay, so instead of saying so that I will be able to access my, so say so that I can access my account. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, good.
Yes. So let's try and remove the to be able to.
So
Well,
that I can. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Shadrach. So we have Faith, Jack, Deborah, Gladys. Okay, Faith, on you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I would say, as a user, I want to
Yep.
get my key
Yep.
so I can open the door.
Well done. In fact, something that's simple, right? But it's so clear, isn't it? It's clear what you want to do. Thank you for that, Faith. I've got nothing to add to that. Okay, so
Thank you.
yeah, Jack, Deborah, Gladys. Okay, Jack, your turn.
So, as an EE customer, I want to check my data allowance so
Yeah.
that I know how much I have left.
Well done. Perfect. Thank you. So Faith and Jack, you can now put your hands down. But so do we see how straightforward it is? Like we're just trying to express what we want to do in the simplest of terms. So Deborah, Gladys, Adejoke, yeah, I think I would stop at that because I know if I leave you people now, you will start with okay, so we have Deborah, Gladys, and Adejoke. So Deborah, on you go.
Thank you. So mine is as a registered user, I
Yep.
want a variety of recipes
Yep.
so that I can maintain a healthy diet.
Lovely. Well done, Deborah. Next is Gladys. So you can put your hand down now, Deborah. I've got nothing to add to that. That's just spot on. Gladys.
Okay, as a trainee, I
Mhm.
want access to the login so that I can learn at my convenience.
Well done, Gladys. Thank you. That's spot on as well. Okay, you can now put your hand down. Adejoke.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, as a new driver,
Yeah.
I want to have a good tutorial
Yeah.
so that I can be able to navigate. Sorry, let me say that again.
Yeah.
As a new register, I want to have a good sat nav so
Mhm.
that I can navigate without
Thank you.
going to
So
the wrong place.
thank you. So you remove the be able to, right? Okay, so that I can
Okay, so that
navigate it. Yeah. So well done. Yeah, I noticed you removed the be able to. So well done for that, Adejoke. So that's the last one we'll take for now. Adejoke, you can now put your hand down. I just want to say thank you to everyone that just participated in that. You see that it's not as difficult as it is. And even if you find it difficult, guess what? During your training, in fact, now is the time to make those mistakes and get them told, that, okay, you didn't quite get this right. This is how it should be. don't know if you agree with me, like, but if you want to make mistakes, I think we can consider this training ground like a safe space where you can make those mistakes and nobody is going to judge you. Like, isn't it better to get it wrong here and be corrected so that when you go out there, you get it right. So well done to everyone that has participated in our little exercise just now. We will carry on. Okay, so now we've talked about user stories. We now want to move on to acceptance criteria. Okay, now after doing all the good work for your user stories, guess what? Your user story isn't complete without the acceptance criteria. Yeah, it's just like in fact, somebody in my workplace, was it 2 days? Because 2 days ago we had a session and it was titled, "What's the user story?" Right? And the person said, user stories and acceptance criteria, they're like partners, like husband and wife. They're like partners. So I mean, you can't have one without the other. So your user story isn't complete until you have your acceptance criteria. Okay. So what is your acceptance criteria? These are the conditions that a software product must meet to be accepted by a user, a customer, or other systems. It also forms the basis for the acceptance testing stage. The second definition says that the predefined requirements that must be met, taking all possible scenarios into account to consider a user story to be finished. But I really like the third definition, and I only just added it today after I attended the session at work 2 days ago. It says they represent the conditions of satisfaction. I think that's the simplest way to put it. Like, how do I know that you have developed what you said you were going to develop for me? I need a set of conditions, right? That must be met. Okay. So it says the conditions that a software product must meet to be accepted by the user. So I'm the user now, right? You guys are the ones that are developing my fancy, complicated, shiny system. Okay, I'm the user. But there are some conditions that the system you're developing, or the software product you are developing, must meet in order for me to then say, yes, this is what I want. So that's why it says the conditions that must be met, for the whole thing to be accepted by the user or by the customer, okay, or even by other systems. It forms the basis for acceptance testing stage. So for your testers, just so you're aware, your testers are going to walk through the acceptance criteria. You understand? And that's how they do their testing. Sometimes you might find yourself even having to do your user acceptance testing, and you might rely on the acceptance criteria to say, anyway, let me leave that to the next slide. Now, number 2 says the predefined requirement, predefined because we would have agreed. So you would have agreed with me to say, in order for this job to be completed or to be deemed as completed, these conditions, these requirements must have been met. But we will both agree, we will all agree. That's why it says predefined. We will define those requirements that must be met. We will take all the possible scenarios into account, all right, before we can then say that user story is finished. Okay. Final one, which is one I really like, is that they represent the conditions of satisfaction. So you're asking me, at what point will you be happy? At what point will you be satisfied that this system is working well? And I'll be like, yeah, I want to be able to click on this and see this. I want so and so to be in green color. I want to be able to save my password. I want to be able to send emails from da 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 da. I want to be able to download customer data. I will list a number of things that have to be, met. Now, I've listed a whole lot of things, but I'm not saying that there will be that many under a specific user story. But the important thing is that for every user story, for example, who gave that example of opening the key and the door, right? So do you know that the acceptance criteria can be so simple that When I turn the key, the door opens. That can be the condition of satisfaction. It's something that's simple, right? So if you were to turn the door and turn the key, right, and the door doesn't open, your needs haven't been met, have they? They haven't. So that condition has not been met. The story has not been completed. That system has not been developed. Can you see what such a simple thing means? If you turn the key and it actually turns without any problems, and you're able to open the door, you have met the condition of satisfaction, because as a user, I'm able to gain entry into my home or into the apartment or wherever. Do you get? So it's such a simple thing, but it forms the basis of testing. You see what I've done just now? I've already done testing. Because somebody is like, oh, we've installed the key to the door. Go check it. So, you know, I told the developer, like, I want to use my key or turn my key so I can get access into the building, right? And then the developer says, oh, we have installed I'm using the word developer, but it probably would be maybe like people building a house or whoever. We've installed it. Right. How do I know it's been installed? How do I know it does what it says it would do? I'll have to turn the key, isn't it? So the tester comes in to say, does the door open, or does the key turn when I turn it? Right? Number one. Number two, does the door open when I turn the key? Do you get? So they would have this list and they will work their way through it. So when they turn the key, if it turns, they put a tick there, it's past that stage, right? Now, when I turned it and it turned, did the door open? So am I able to open the door? Is it open? Like, did you see that the knob or whatever, like turned or whatever? There will be something to indicate that. If that happens, it has passed that stage. Guess what? The job is done. You've met the condition of satisfaction. You have met the predefined requirements. Okay. Now, just as with the user story, the acceptance criteria also has a format. Okay, and it's called the Gherkin syntax. Please bear in mind that this is not the only way you can write acceptance criteria. Okay, there are different ways, and I will show you another way. But historically, or it's very common to find the Gherkin syntax. In fact, if you're going for an interview, please remember this one, because yes, there are other ways to write it, but when you're going for like a test or an interview, you know, like these are the kind of things they would ask, like, so how do you ensure that your user story is good? Oh, yeah, the principle of invest, and you go independent, negotiable, valuable, estimatable, and all that, right? In the same way, when you're talking about acceptance criteria, you can say, oh yeah, I like to structure my acceptance criteria. I write my acceptance criteria using the Gherkin syntax, the given, when, then. Okay, even if you don't remember Gherkin syntax, you can remember given, when, then. Use the given, when, then format. That's what most people use. Okay, however, given, when, then might not work in all circumstances, and depending on the kind of project you're working on, and then you would use a set of statements. Can you remember what we just discussed in the previous slide, where I said somebody wants to open their door, right? We were not saying given, when, then. We're saying, does the door open? You know, does the key turn? To those are sets of statements or questions, okay? But let's come back. Given, when, then. Gherkin syntax. Given, it explains the scenario. When, of course, that's the action. So when something happens, then this is the result. So given this, you set the scenario or set the scene. When I do then this is the result. So given, when, then. Okay, remember that your user story format was what? Who, what, and why. All right, this is given, when, then. All right. Now, this is what I was talking about just now. I said an acceptance criteria could also be written as a set of statements, a list of pass or fail statements, or yes or no statements that will mark the functionality as complete. For example, is the color displayed correctly as green? If you're able to say yes, it has passed that stage. Another example, is the user able to sign in with the correct details? If you say no, it has failed. If you say yes, it has passed, okay? Does the landing page display the correct logo? No, it's a fail. Yes, it's a pass. All right. So we could use the Gherkin syntax, or depending on the kind of project you're working on, these sets of statements might be more suitable. For example, the workshop I was at 2 days ago, they didn't use giving when then, right? In the same organization that I'm working in, they didn't use giving when then. They used a set of in fact, they used a set of questions. Okay. But in the same organization, in the project I'm working on in the NHS, we use giving when then. Okay. But these other people, because of the kind of project that they were working on, they used a set of statements. Okay. However, whatever method you choose to use within your teams, like I mean, when you start working, right? I'm not talking of in here in Blue Sky. In Blue Sky, please continue to use the Gherkin syntax, giving when then, okay? So, but whatever it is you prefer, please remember giving when then, Gherkin syntax, because it can come in handy when you're going for your interviews, okay? Now, we said user stories are partners with the acceptance criteria. They are inseparable. They go hand in hand, you know, they go for lovely strolls in the evenings together. So without your acceptance criteria, your user story is incomplete. Please remember that your user story is incomplete without your acceptance criteria, because how else can you prove to me that you have done what we agreed that you would do if you don't have a set of statements or predefined conditions that we can tick? If we don't have a tick list, how do we know that it's completed? Look at it, look at the big picture. Imagine a business has hired you and your team to do some development work. You as a BA, you've gone, you've elicited requirements, you've documented your requirements, you've had your refinement, and work is going on. How would you prove to the business that employed you, or engage your services, that you have completed what you said you would, if you're not able to test it? So that's why testing is a big area. And that's why a lot of businesses, when it comes to testing, like developers and all that, everybody's like on the edge, like, oh God, this thing is we're going to test it before it goes live and all that, because it is a big deal. That's how you show that you have done the work you said you would do. Okay, user story and acceptance criteria. As a new user, I want to register by creating a new username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. This is where you start to use your imagination, because sometimes you can't see it, you imagine it. In fact, at my workplace, right, there's a lot of imagination. Like, there are systems that you have never seen before, but you have to imagine it. You have to make things up. You have to, try to create things that, yeah, you have to picture it in your head. All right. We are, so I'm working with the NHS, and we can be sitting down and saying like, oh, we want suppliers to be able to bid for a system that allows them to check in, like when they go to their GPs, they want to be able to check in. You know how, like, sometimes you go to some GPs and you see the screen and you tap on it and it says, enter your date of birth, and I put my date of birth, 19 January 1900, and it says, are you Mrs. Okeogene Okunfolami? And I say yes, and then it confirms my appointment time and all that. Okay, I have the luxury of knowing that because my GP here, that's just 10 minutes away, they do that. Okay, but if your GP doesn't have that, you have to imagine it, right? You're like, when the person comes in, person taps on this and this happens, and then it takes them to another page and that happens, and then check-in is complete. Okay, so you really have to imagine. So you see this story. As a new user, I want to register by creating a new username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. Given when then? Given that I'm a new user and I navigate to the sign up page. When I enter my username and password, then I am successfully registered and able to log in with my chosen credentials. I am sure that there's somebody that's saying, this is not giving when then. This is giving and when then. Calm down, according to my Scottish people, calm down. It can be a mixture, right? So like I said, a lot of these things are not set in stone. So we have like the overriding principles, right? But within that, we have room to make things clear. All right. So I said given when then, but please note that you can have ands scattered around the whole thing. I will show you another example that has and in different positions. So this is because we need an extra step. Given that I am a new user, so the scenario is what? That I'm a new user and I navigate to the sign up page. So when you get to the sign up page, remember we're talking about a story that has to do with this story is for what? Creating a new username and password. So when you picture it in your head, like at what point will you create a new user name and password? Isn't it like when you are on the landing page or the home page of a platform? So for example, if we go back to our Zara example where I don't even know if they have a sign up feature, but let's assume that they have a sign up feature or a register feature, okay? When you are on that landing page, right, you would have to maybe even click on sign up, right? And then enter your username and password. And when you hit enter, it would then say you're successfully registered, okay? And then you'll be able to log in with your chosen credentials. Now, what I've even listed has translated to even more lines. Let me explain. So I said you're a new user, you're on the sign up page. So that's already 2 lines, right? What if I say I'm on the sign up page? Given that I'm a new user and I navigate to the sign up page and I click on sign up, okay? When I enter my username and password and hit enter, then I am successfully registered, another line, and able to log in with my chosen credentials. So that's like what, 6 or 7 lines, isn't it? Instead of the 4 we have here. But what has that helped you to do? It has broken down the process into a number of different simple steps, right? Simple steps. I'm hoping that we're not lost or we're not confused at this point. In fact, let me even break thingy. Can I ask you to mute and just confirm? Do we understand so far? The acceptance, the logic with the
Yes.
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 Okay.
ADD logic.
Yes.
This one you are saying, the user story and the acceptance
Yes.
criteria, I don't understand, please.
Okay. So
Okay.
what's the part of it that's getting you confused? Let's see how we can help.
Yeah, you're talking about the acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of a new user on a new sign page, and yeah,
Mm.
can you please explain better? Because from what I got, the first one, a new user, it is step as I want, as want and that, so that's what I got. But I don't really understand the last the acceptance criteria.
But you understand the user story though?
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. So that's okay. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay.
Oh,
So what?
thank you.
Don't mute. I just want to, let's clarify this now. Okay. So you understand, as a new user, sorry, I want to as a new user, I want to register so that the system can remember me and my data. So I want you remember, like I said, that we have to really imagine. So when you start working on your projects in your own teams, they must have put you into teams and all that. When you start working, you might have to do a little bit of imagination. In fact, a lot of imagination in real life, you actually have to do a lot of imagination. Like I just gave an example that when you go to your GP, you understand? So for me, it's easy to I don't even need to imagine because I already have that facility in my GP. But what if they were telling your team to develop a check-in system, right? And you don't have that kind of thing in your GP, in your local GP. You have to imagine it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to imagine walking into the GP, seeing a screen. So there's a screen, you click on it, you know, you imagine all those things. Okay, so work with me here now. As a new user, I want to register by creating a new username and password so that the system can remember me and my data. The first question, new user of what? It's probably a website, isn't it?
Yes.
But where would you be that you can create a username or password?
You have to register first.
Okay, but well, if you register, you've already created your username and password, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
So where would you be to register?
On the website.
Thank you very much. What page on the website would you be on?
The login.
Thank you. So either login, in this case, we said sign up, right? Because it's a new user. So that's why we said sign up. You know, like the first time you would sign up, then when you're coming back next time, you will log in. Okay. Now, right. So you've gotten all that right. You see that the more you think about it, the more you're answering all those questions. Do you know you've already answered like half of it?
Yeah.
In the acceptance criteria. Okay, so we're now on the sign up page. When you go on sign up, I'm sure you must have signed up. There's no way you've not signed up for something. You must have signed up. Like if you like to shop or different websites, like even learning website, educational websites, any kind, you must have signed up, right? So just imagine again, when you are on that sign up page, what do they usually tell you? What do you usually see there?
Yeah, they ask some questions like after you put your username and your password.
Exactly.
And to give you some questions like, do you want to receive a call? Do you want us to test you when you are trying to log in next time on this app?
Yeah.
Those are the questions.
Okay. Cool. So do you know that you've already covered this scenario? So first of all, we said you're a new user, isn't it? Where's the new user? The new user is on that website. But where on that website? You are on the sign up page. Okay. Now, on the sign up page, what are you going to do there? You want to enter, you know, sometimes they will prompt you to create a username, and then sometimes they will tell you to put your email as your username or whatever, and they cannot tell you to create a password. You understand? When you've done all that, and maybe you hit enter or submit, you might see a message to say you've successfully registered, right? Or sometimes you will say you successfully registered. We've sent you an email. We've sent an email to Dr. Kumvolami at Hotmail. You understand? And then you quickly go and see. Because like for me now, if I'm ordering something online, right? Like if I'm ordering an outfit online, I never come out of that page until, you know, like when they say, so you've paid for it and everything, you know, when you check out, you make your payment and it says
successful.
Yeah, successful, right? An email has been sent to I don't close that site. I go to my email, you know, to check that I've seen that confirmation there. You know, sometimes it might be in your junk, or sometimes you need to refresh, you know, and then you now see is it order confirmation or whatever, like, you know, so some kind of confirmation that your purchase has been completed, right? Then only then do I go and close that, like, you understand? So I'm just trying to think about, to kind of jog your memory, to really think about how these things work in practice. So this thing has been made up as well. Okay, so you can add so many lines. For example, you can say, given that I'm a new user and I am on the sign up page, when I enter in my user name and password and click on the submit button, then I am successfully registered and able to log in with my chosen credentials. Do you understand? So I've even created more steps, but what that means is that is the way I understand it, and it's made it simpler for me.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Helps. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. Okay, so this is another example that will further illustrate what we're trying to say. Now, the first one we did was for a new user, and now this is for a registered user. Okay, so again, the user story, I'm sure we are all familiar with this. As as a registered user, I want to log in with my username and password so that the system can authenticate me and I can trust it. Acceptance criteria. Okay, given that I am a registered user, do you know there's something that just even occurred to me now? You see how it says, given that I am a registered user and logged out, right? Do you know that we can make that another line to say, given that I am a registered user, next line, and I am logged out, right? So you're not logged into that page. You're still on that page. You're not, but you're not on, but you're logged out. Given that I'm a registered user, second line, and I am logged out, third line, and I navigate to the login page, okay? And I enter my username, and I enter an incorrect password, right? So, you know, a lot of times we want to talk about the happy path, which is the successful scenario. But this one has just given us like the unhappy path, right? So, and I enter an incorrect password. Remember, this person has already saved their details. This is the same person from this previous scenario that signed up, entered in their username and password, and they are now successfully registered. This is now another user story for log in. The other one was for sign up. This is for log in. Okay. Now, the person has registered. So the system already remembers your details. Okay. But now you've come in, you've entered your username, and you've put in an incorrect password. When you click on login, what should happen? Should it be successful? No. So this is why I said acceptance criteria forms the basis of your testing. Okay. When you click on login, if you put in the incorrect password and you click on login and you are successfully logged in, that system has failed, isn't it? So it shows what you expect to happen when you perform certain actions. That's as simple as it is. When I navigate to the login page and I enter my username and I enter an incorrect password, what should happen? You enter an incorrect password, okay, fine. The system doesn't yet know. But when I click on login, the system should then identify that error. That password is incorrect because that username has been paired with a certain password. So if you put in the incorrect password, it will then remember the kind of so it says then login fails, and then an error message stating that the username or password is incorrect is displayed, right? So it says login fails with an error message stating that the username or password is incorrect. So you know how these things happen. Like it would then say username or password. You see a message, maybe like in red or so. You will see a prompt. You will see it somewhere on the screen to say your login attempt has failed or something like that along those lines, and say because the username or password is incorrect, please try again, something like that. And then you try and try again. Okay, I'm going to ask, do we all understand this example that has, or do we understand the logic really? Is the logic I need us to get right? Do we understand the logic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Jack, your hand is raised. Okay. You
Yeah.
have a question. Okay.
Yeah, quick one. So you said that the acceptance criteria is obviously, what I've understood of it is that the steps that the user takes to get to a certain point.
Yes.
How long does it have to be? So let's say, for example, you've got
Uh-huh.
a web page with so many different options. You have
Yeah.
to list all the options just to get to that one option, or can you bypass
No,
it?
no. So let's go back to the different things that can be on your web page, right? Let's just where was that example I gave? Okay, so can you pick one? So from the backlog items, right? You see that we've got a logo, home, sign up. So you're never going to have all this in one user story.
Okay.
You can have it in one user story if you're just creating it and you're not going into the, so for example, in fact, I'm going to give you like an expo like what's the word now, like advanced I don't know, information, let's just call it that, right? So your header menu, it can be that your user story is I want to be able to view these items on the header menu. So you can say logo, home, sign up, login, search, about us. But do you know what that means? Like, I'm not saying I want to be able to sign up, I want to be able to log in, I want to be able to click on the search functionality, I want to click about us and be redirected to another page. I'm just saying I want to see those icons or those links. Okay, so that means it's just a simple user story, like given maybe on the Blue Sky website, on the Blue Sky landing page. No, given I'm a new user, when I am on the Blue Sky landing page, I want to see the different items of the header menu, something like that. That's the only scenario where you can have logo, home, sign up, login, search, and about us. But it will not go into detail, right? So you will never say you want to see all that and you want to see all the functionality in one story. Remember, we said your story has to be small enough to be completed within one sprint. Okay.
Yeah.
By the time you start talking of all the different functionalities, the developer is not going to be able to create your about us, your search, your login, in one go. So maybe you're starting with, I want to view. Okay. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah.
or if you want to ask a follow-up question. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. It answers it. But let's say, for example, you said
Yeah.
back to the login one, right?
Okay.
If you were to say, okay, as a user, I want to log in so I can view my account.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, you said something about happy path and unhappy path. So let's say,
Yeah.
given that I type in my correct details, when I press enter, I should be able to log in.
Yeah.
So that's something that can be tested. And then obviously the unhappy path is given that I
Yes.
entered the wrong password.
Yeah.
Then it should not let me come in.
Exactly.
And then does it stop there? So let's say if I wanted to add more, like for example, let's say I wanted to save my password on the
So that would be another user story.
another user. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you now. Okay.
Yes.
But so the user story changes according to the acceptance criteria. So according to what you're trying to achieve, that's what the user story will be.
Yes,
or that way around.
or vice versa. Yeah.
Vice versa, yeah,
So,
okay.
so you see, they're so linked. Like you see, I'm looking at it now from another perspective, because you said the user story could change based on the acceptance criteria. The same can be said of the acceptance criteria. Okay, so just remember that for a new functionality, it's a different user story. So we're not going to bunch everything into one, because it has to be simple. It has to be simple. Yeah. Okay. So, but it's a good thing you've identified like the happy path. So, because there are possibilities, what are the two possibilities for a password? Either it's correct or incorrect. So we want to capture those two scenarios. So under the acceptance criteria, you might have scenario 1, you understand, which is the happy path. Given that when I enter and scenario 2 might be the unhappy path. When I enter an incorrect password, then so
and they'll all be under the same user story.
Yes, so
Okay.
in that case, it will be under the same user story. But you see, it's relating to the scenarios under the same user story. So it's just the happy part and the so sometimes you can in one user story you may have up to even 3 or 4 acceptance criteria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you. No, because I was thinking that the user story changes every time you've got different acceptance criteria.
No,
but if you're saying you can have one user story about different
acceptance criteria.
That makes sense now. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Because your user story, it could be small, right? But it can have different aspects to it. So you can have up to 2 or 3. And then again, it depends on how big the user story is. So again, like in practice, like the project I'm working on, right? Our user stories that we write are quite big. So they're epics. They're not even on the level of, like your 10 users. So you can have up to 5 different acceptance criteria under that. But that's just an illustration. Usually, you might not have that many. I mean, it's really, well, just as a guide, you can have your happy path, your unhappy path. Okay, so I've got people, no worries. I've got people with their hands up. Just a second, let me identify. Okay, in this order, we've got Faith, Shadrach, and Deborah. Okay, Faith, what's your question?
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask, when you have this acceptance criteria, when do you know? Obviously, you've said it before that to break it down, you need to add and. Okay. With the example I gave before, I've been able to add and to somewhere. But sometimes, when do you know when to use and, as in how to break it down? When do you incorporate that and?
And okay, so sometimes it might be so simple. There's no need for an and. Let me see. Okay, no, those ones are okay. Right. So what was your example? Let's work with that.
I think my example was my example was given I have the key. When I insert the key, then I should be able to open the door.
So you've just made my point now, right? There's no need for an and. You understand? Because it's such a
Okay.
simple process. Yeah. So you see, the basis, the foundation is given when then. When it becomes more complicated, well, not necessarily complicated, when there are more steps to achieve it, you would inevitably have to use and somewhere. Okay. But
Okay.
yours was so simple, like giving, say that again, please.
Given I have the key.
Giving I have,
when I insert the key.
no, sorry,
then
do you want to start again? I didn't quite hear.
Given I have the key.
I have the key, okay.
Yeah, when I insert the key, then I should be able to open the door.
Okay. Okay.
So, but I did something when I added and something.
Oh,
I
you're
don't know if it's
breaking.
correct.
Sorry, you're
Just
breaking. I
gonna
don't
do-
know if you could speak louder or
Sorry, can you hear
it
me
gets
now?
faint in parts. Yeah, it's fine now.
Sorry about that. Okay, I said I added and somewhere. I want to know if
Oh.
okay.
Sorry, you added add and where?
And in between, I'll go over it again now. I
Okay.
said, given I have the key, when I set the key and I turn to the left.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense. I'm just
Okay. Yeah.
and
So
I turn it to the left, then I should be able to open the door.
that is also fine. So because when you said
Okay.
when I insert the key, in my mind I was like, okay, so if you insert the key, that will not just be it all, is it? Like, but guess what? So this is a good example, right? When you said given I have the key, when I insert the key, then I should be able to open the door, right? Now, do you know that story, as simple as it is, it's a given when then. If you say it and if you discuss this with your development team and everybody's happy with it, they understand that when you insert it in me, you're also going to turn it. If they understand that and they're happy with it, fine. But then some people can be picky and say, if you insert it, like, you just insert it, like, how is that going to open the door? So some will be like, oh, you have to turn the key. That's another step. Do you get? So somebody can write the same story and put that acceptance criteria. The first acceptance criteria had 3 lines. Another person can write it and that same user story, and the acceptance criteria has 4 lines. And the two teams produce the same thing because they have an understanding. However, if you have any information that will make it simpler and easier to understand, go for it. So given I have the key, right? Given I have the key, and I insert the key, when I turn it, or when I turn the key, then I am able to, that breaks it, as anybody can pick that up and understand what you're doing. So does that answer your question now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. So I said it was Faith, Shadrach, and Deborah. Okay, Shadrach, on you go, and then Deborah next. Faith, if you don't mind putting your hand down. So I said Shadrach and Deborah. Okay, Shadrach.
Mine is more of like clarification. So before you have acceptance criteria, you must have a user story first, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely, because the acceptance criteria can't even stand on its own. It supports the user story. Remember, we said it's the basis for testing the user story. Okay, so the acceptance criteria is what the testers, they are very interested in in the acceptance criteria, because that's how they know that whatever was developed, the developers will go and they would create, and then the testers we start working through, okay, I'm a new user. Okay, when I navigate to am I a new user? So they would probably go to the website and they will make sure they've not logged in. They use maybe they'll go incognito, and they will tick that. And I navigate to the sign up page, they will navigate to the sign up page. Okay, they've ticked that. When I enter my username and password, they would enter it. Okay, and they are expecting things to happen. So that's how they are doing their testing. If they do this, they expect that to happen. If they do this, they expect the other thing to happen. If it doesn't happen as expected, then they raise what we call bugs. I'm sure you must have heard it. Testers raising bugs, So that's all that it is. Like, they are raising bugs because the system has not responded as they expect it to respond. Okay. So yeah. And Deborah.
Thank you very much. I don't know if this question has been answered or if it's just in my head, but you know how you're talking about like the user stories and the criteria. I get it. But then can you have, say for example, now on this page that you're on, see if that makes more sense. You've got as a new user, I want to register by creating a new username and password. Now, can you use that one story and give several acceptance criteria? Like now you've given this one. Can you now add underneath, like when can you give the logout one on the same, so it's not too bunched up? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Okay,
so can you have the logout one, the incorrect password one on under one user story?
Okay, so if this is a user story for so I think this was the question that, I'm sorry, I can't remember whose name, the first person that asked the question, that was asking me about the
That was Jack.
acceptance. It was Jack, right? Okay, yeah. So I think this is a good question to answer, to kind of further buttress that point. Now, we know that when we're talking about passwords, there's so many things that passwords can encompass, right? So, for example, now, oh my goodness, my brain, I'm trying to remember the person that just Deborah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you know how like passwords, username, there's so many aspects to it, right? This is a good example where one user story can have different aspects. So you can have one scenario can be incorrect password, another scenario can be correct password, right? Another one can be even like you said, log out, right? That's also related to your password, because you know you sign in, you sign you sign out, right? It's closely tied. I mean, how many steps for you to sign out? So you can just you can put that under as another scenario. You understand? Like, okay, given I'm a new user, when I click on the log out or sign out, I don't know, button, you understand? I'm able to although sign out, it's kind of, I would not, I would rather have 5 different user stories, right? And simple acceptance criteria than bunching stuff up.
But would that not look very voluptuous? Like you're having wouldn't be too many words. Imagine having user story.
I don't think you get what I mean. So it's a different user story, not that you're adding it to the user story. Or am I not understanding your question?
No. What I'm saying is now you've got one page of this user story and the acceptance criteria. Then you go and have another page of another. Is it not going to be two?
Okay, another user story, another acceptance criteria. It's fine. You can have 100. It doesn't even matter. The thing is, right, you want to simplify things. It's better to simplify things, and you get to refinement and they're like, oh, you know what? These are related. Like, it's just an extra step. Let's bunch it together. That's at the discretion of, like the whole team. But it's better for you to break things down and simplify. Remember when we were talking at the start, like what a good user story, we're saying small. It has to be small enough, to be developed within a sprint. So you want to break it to the barest. When I say within a sprint, it doesn't mean you should take the whole 2 weeks to do. Do you get, like, so you want to make it as small as possible. The developers would rather see 10 stories than 2 that are like choked up, and it's like, how do these ones relate, So it's better to have them. Don't bother about the number of stories on your board.
Okay.
Don't even bother about that, It's your nobody's ever going to come to tell you, oh, there are too many stories on your board. Why didn't you bunch them? Nobody would ever do that. As a BA, backlog maintenance or management or prioritization is your responsibility. You will do it as you deem fit. Okay, but bear in mind, simplify your story. It should be simple. Remember when we started talking of users, we said they are simple. That should be your watchword. Simple. Okay, right. So where?
Sorry, I have one more question. I'm so sorry to be a pain.
That's fine. No, it's all right.
My last question is, can you have the Gherkin syntax, I think is what you called it, and written statement under one acceptance criteria, or it has to be one or the other?
Okay, so I've never seen a combination. So I would say one or the other because I have never seen that combination. So is because if you're not using the Gherkin syntax, there's a reason why. Let's go back to the thingy. You understand? Because some of the projects can be a bit like technical and it just doesn't suit the scenario. I'm looking for a good example to give you, but some of them are not straightforward as in given the days when that happens. It's going to be a case of is this working? Does the light go on? As in like so if you're not using Gherkin syntax, there's a reason why it hasn't worked for that project, there's a reason why these statements work better. So I've never seen a combination. So I believe it's one. Yeah, it's safe to say it's one or the other.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No worries at all. No worries. So, right. So this one again, so this was just me trying to show you how you can put the acceptance criteria down, but not using the Gherkin syntax. So it's a list of statements. So this is back to that first user story I showed you guys. As an online shopper, I want to view a list of products so that I can select some items to purchase. Now, acceptance criteria. So set of statements, right? On clicking product list, the product list opens up in a new tab. See how straightforward this will be for the tester. What would they do? They'll go and click on the product list, right? And if the product list opens up in a new tab, what would they do? They will tick it, pass. Okay. Now, how can you reward this in Gherkin? You'll be like giving I don't know, giving something. When I click on the product list opens up in a new tab. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So the next line says different product categories are listed. When the product list opens up in a new tab, you now want to check, are different product categories listed? Yes, pass. Okay. On selecting a category, specific related products are displayed. All right, I'm going to select a category. When I click on one, do I see related product being displayed? If yes, I will tick what? Pass. Next line. On selecting a product, there is the option to add to basket. So I'm now going to select a product from that list. There's a product list that we say will be displayed. I'm now going to select the product. When I select one, is there the option to say add to basket? If that happens, I'll tick it, pass. On clicking add to basket, the selected product is moved to the basket. If I click add to basket and I see that it moves to the top of my page, that nice basket icon on your top right. For most websites, it's on the top right for some reason. And then you see one, and you see that one item in your basket. That's successful, isn't it? And then you click pass. So this is a set of statements, but it's so straightforward. It shows you how the testers can work their way through and now say, yeah, I am actually able to select items to purchase, right? Because everything we are doing here is to ensure that the online shopper is able to select items to purchase after viewing a list of products. So I hope that explains it. All right. We've come to the end of user stories and acceptance criteria, right? These next few slides, well, it's just one slide, right, would have been where we go to your Azure Springboard and we try to populate the backlog. We navigate. So I show you like where to go, create your stories, how you put your comments and all that. Okay. It's really important as well. But because nobody has access just now, we would have to agree and meet on another. I don't know. I'll see if I can get one of the trainers or mentors or somebody that can, like just spare 15, because I don't even have access to that board again. It's been ages since I went on any of those boards, and I can't for the life of me remember my password. So yeah, I'll look to see if I can arrange with somebody and let you guys know when we can meet. 15-30 minutes really to just talk you through how you populate the backlog. So how you can, so you've written your user stories, right? But you want to put them somewhere. So you want to see how you create your epics, your features, your product backlog items, you know, and how you just structure everything, you know, where you can attach your document. So, you know, like sometimes you need to add some additional information. That exercise will show you where you can attach it, how you can link documents to it, you know, where you can put your wireframes and any other artifacts, you know. So that's what I think it would be really useful to put all this into practice. But yeah, this is actually it in terms of user stories and acceptance criteria. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to take them now. And you can just put your hand up. You can use the raise hand function, and I can take any questions. I'll just give us a minute or so. Anybody, any questions? Okay, any questions? But yeah, well, I've had, the thing is, we've taken questions as we went along. So I want to say thank you for being for engaging right in the session. It's been good, and from the examples that you guys gave, I can tell you're well on your way. I hope it's all clear. I hope it's all clear. But please, if you have any further questions, or like when you start, if you feel you need to reach out, by all means, do so. I'm on Telegram. Yeah, so that's it. I think we've come to the end. If there are no other questions, I'm happy for us to call it a night, and I will let Olawumi communicate to you guys when next we would meet. We'll probably have to look at your calendar and see. Maybe if for any reason, like your access has been resolved, like I think there was somebody that said they had issues with accessing the board, but if you're already close to getting access and you get access, please let me know and I can arrange something, because I can just talk you through